I applied to Ross. They told us that we would find out on March 13th. March 13th would be the 1-year anniversary of my father passing away. So I'm like, God's got me. Like, there is no way I went through all of that. And on March 13th, I'm gonna find out that I didn't get accepted to this school. What's up, baddies, and welcome back to the Arab and Thriving show. I want you to get comfortable, grab a coffee, grab a blanket, whatever you need, because it is officially story time. And my guess is that somebody listening, maybe you, also are in a place where you need some sort of guidance, you need assurance, you need to feel like you're on the right path. Maybe you're in a place where you don't feel comfortable and you just need some assurance that things are going to work out. I want to tell you a story about probably one of the more unsure periods of my life. I really wanted to get into business. I'd always been so fascinated by business, by marketing. I was a teacher. I actually pursued teaching right after undergrad. So I had a lot of imposter syndrome around the idea of pivoting out of the education space and into the business world. Made myself feel like maybe I'm not cut out for this isn't right for you, but I just constantly had this urge to pursue higher education and specifically get an MBA. It wasn't until 2017, the year that my father passed away, where it just kind of hit me that life was really short and I needed to just do what I wanted to do. I put my head down for that entire year, for around 8 months really, and studied for my GMAT. And when I first took the GMAT, my score was terrible. I don't know of any school that would have accepted me with that score. And I wanted to go to Ross, which is a top 10 business school at Michigan. At the time, I was getting really acclimated into my community in Dearborn, and I didn't want to let that go. We had started the Dearborn Girl podcast. I was just so passionate about that work, and I wanted to be able to pursue that passion of mine while also driving 45 minutes away and going to schools. I was working so hard to try to get that test score up so that I was even eligible at all to get into a school like Ross. So during this time, I was a huge believer in signs, and I was so open to receiving signs from God that I was on the right track. So for months, as I was studying, this was literally my schedule. I would drive up to Ann Arbor, because I was working for the University of Michigan at that time, go to work from 9 to 5, drive to Lifetime Fitness, because it was halfway between Ann Arbor and Dearborn where I was living at the time, drive to Lifetime Fitness, and I wouldn't even work out yet. I would go into the cafe area that they had and study for at least an hour and a half. I would just do drills. Sometimes I would review practice tests that I had taken over the weekend and just look at what I was getting right and wrong. Like, I was dedicated. And then, because I was already at the gym, I did this on purpose, I would obviously go and get a workout in. So every single day, it was just like work, GMAT, workout, come home, eat something, sleep, collapse in my bed, sleep, wake up, wash, rinse, repeat. And then on the weekends, I didn't have a life. I would just go straight to this coffee shop. It's closed now, but it's New Order Coffee in Detroit, and just post up there and study my butt off. And I actually hired a tutor during that time who was amazing and just helped me so much with my math, because that was my weak part. I was putting the work in, and lo and behold, my score went up by around 200 points. And I'm not gonna tell you what my final score was. I actually really don't remember, but it was like in the ballpark of being Ross acceptable. It wasn't even like competitive. It was like, you might get in and you might not. So I retook the GMAT 3 different times, and my score went up to, I think, a 680. I really don't remember, you guys. It was either a 660 or a 680, but either way, it was like, okay, you can apply to Ross with this score. You still might not get in, but you won't not get in just because of your GMAT. I really made it a huge point to just beef up my application and make sure it looked great. And anyway, I applied to Ross. They told us that we would find out on March 13th. March 13th would be the 1-year anniversary of my father passing away. So I'm like, God's got me. Like, there is no way I went through all of that, and on March 13th, I'm gonna find out that I didn't get accepted to this school. It's just not gonna happen like that. Like, I have faith, and it's gonna be this whole magical, amazing thing where I get into Ross, and it's March 13th, and I get to post it and be so proud of, like, this is what I was doing last year during this time, being depressed and crying, and this is this amazing news from God during this year, during this time. Like, it just, that's how I envisioned it, and that's how I really wanted it to play out. But as we know, God doesn't care how we want things to play out. I also decided during that week, like March 13th and on, to go to Florida. It was kind of like a tradition that I had every year. Was I just didn't want to be home and sad and just in a negative place. So I'd always book myself a trip with one of my friends who's always down to go, Gloria. This time Gloria and I decided to go to Miami. So I'm like, that's perfect. Regardless of what happens, whether I get in or not, I'm in Miami. Like there's only a certain level of sad that you can be if you live in Miami. Ahmed, can you put headphones? Okay. So, anywho, we're flying on the plane. It's March 13th. I hook up to Delta's Wi-Fi because I'm like, they're probably calling me right now in this little 2-hour plane ride. They're probably calling me and I missed their call. Like, should I email someone and be like, hey guys, just in case you called me to let me in, like I'm on an airplane. I'm like, no, that's so thirsty. Like, just chill, just chill, just chill. But I was like, not chill at all. The whole plane ride goes by, no email, no call, nothing. Obviously they couldn't call me. I land and I'm like looking at my phone all day and I get no calls. So I just don't really say anything. Like I keep it to myself and I'm just feeling, okay, maybe they meant like the week of March 13th. Maybe it's not March 13th that they're gonna let us know. So the next day, Gloria and I wake up and we go to this coffee shop in Miami and we're both wanting to get some work done. Like I was blogging a lot at the time, so I wanted to post up and blog, but I also wanted to check into the portal and see if there had been any updates into the admissions portal. So we sit down and I go, once I get situated, I check into the portal and my heart just sinks because it said that I had been waitlisted. Now, you might think that I should have been happy because I wasn't rejected, but that was the first round and they said that if you apply early, which I did, nobody gets rejected. So in my mind, it's like I could be rejected, but they're just waitlisting me because I applied early. This is the worst case scenario as of right now. So I have this trait in me where I don't panic. Like I see something and then I just immediately, like within a split second, I let myself feel how I feel and then I figure out my game plan. So I was already like, I see it, my heart sinks, I feel sad, but I'm like, okay, onto the GMAT website. The only thing I can do to control this outcome is retake my GMAT. So let me figure out when the next GMAT test day is. Let me bump the score up by at least 20 so that my application can be more competitive for the next round. So I'm sitting there looking that up. And before I tell you what happens next, I have to give you some context. So as I'd mentioned, my dad had passed away a year before that date. I would dream about him all the time, several times a week. Some of the dreams were not really that eventful. He would just show up in my dream, but there were a handful of dreams that were just so vivid and so like you wake up heavy, but not in like a sad way. Like it felt so real. I know you know what I'm talking about. Like I had so many of those dreams where it just felt too realistic to not be real. So one of those dreams was such a weird random dream, but I'll explain it to you. My dad was an educator, he was an administrator, and later in his career, he would often go on these workshops and these trips. They'd always be these conferences for education and for administrators. So in my dream, he was somewhere, I think in South America, I don't actually remember the country he was in, on one of these trips. And I get a WhatsApp on my phone in my dream of my dad sending me a random picture of this hill with hundreds of iguanas all on the hill, which is like such a thing my dad would do. He would just send a random weird picture like that and not caption it or not tell me why he's thinking of me in that moment. He just sent it. And so in the dream, I was like, LOL, like, why'd you just send me that? And he didn't respond. Okay. When I woke up from that dream, mind you, this is like months after he died. When I woke up from that dream, I immediately looked up iguana symbolism. Because again, I'm huge on signs and I just want to know, like, does this mean something? And the definition of iguana symbolism, strength and hardiness during times of most need. I just want to repeat that. I don't even know the word hardiness. That's how you know I'm not making this up. Strength and hardiness during times of most need. So obviously I wake up from this dream, I look up iguana, I read that definition, and I like immediately get emotional because if you just think of like the surrounding symbolism, like he's at this conference, we're not together, he's somewhere where we're not physically together, he's somewhere else. He sends me this image of a hill. It's like an upward hill with all of these, like an abundance of iguanas. And it's the symbolism that he's just sending me all this strength, grit, and resilience during this hill that I'm on in life. just a crazy message. And when I tried to respond to him, there was no response. It was like, my dad used to do this a lot. Whenever he wouldn't want to explain something further because he thought it was self-explanatory, that was very much so like, mic drop, I'm not gonna explain that, you figure it out type thing, right? Fast forward all the way months later. I'm at this coffee shop, I'm on my laptop. I had just figured out that I got deferred from my dream school, the only school I cared to go to. I'm already kind of plan Bing the situation. Like, okay, let me just go, new tab, GMAT, let's figure out when the GMAT day is. I'm gonna study, this sucks, but whatever, we're gonna do it, we're gonna get in. It's like, I'm trying to control these outcomes, right? Which is like a whole theme in my life where I'm like so type A sometimes, where it's like, no, this is what I said I wanted. God, you put this on my heart. I don't know what you're trying to tell me with this wait list, but I'm gonna show up and I'm gonna do whatever it takes, really. So then, as we're sitting at this coffee shop in Miami, there's beautiful windows. It's like a floor to ceiling window coffee shop, so gorgeous. And I just see everyone start crowding towards this corner of the coffee shop, looking outside of the window. They're all like looking at something on the floor. And mind you, these are locals. These are people that work there every day. They live there, they're from there. So whatever they're looking at must be very abnormal for what they would see every day. So I get up because I'm curious and I'm just like, what are they looking at? So I get up, I'm curious, I want to go see like what is this spectacle? What is it? And I kid you not, it is the largest iguana I've ever seen in real life or on television. Like, this thing was huge. I'm gonna show you the picture, but the picture doesn't do it justice. It was like 10 of my hands, and I have long fingers. This thing was huge. And iguanas are not so hard to come by in Florida, but if all of these locals are staring at it and recording it and taking pictures of it, clearly this is not something that they see every day. Clearly there is some remarkability around this moment. At this point in time though, I was already very spiritual and very godly and just in tune. So I look over, like I kind of maneuver because people are blocking it, and I see it, and I literally just start laughing. And I'm like, that was for me. Like, y'all don't realize, but that was for me. This is exactly this symbol, because it shot me right back. Like, immediately, there was not even a moment where I needed to figure it out. It shot me right back to that dream and to that message, strength and hardiness during times of most need. You know, you'd think I would get emotional, but I really just started laughing because I'm like, oh my God, like, this is literally for me. I don't know how, I don't know when, I don't even know if it means I'm gonna get into this school, but all I know is God is trying to tell me that he's got me. Like, I need to chill out. So controversial as it is, I didn't end up retaking my GMAT. I ended up getting in a month later. I found out from one of the admissions reps. He literally called me one day and he was just like, listen, like, we're letting 3 people off of the wait list. I'm calling you because I want to know, if I let you off this wait list tomorrow, are you going to accept? We want to make sure that whoever we let off is actually accepting our offer and not going to another school. So I'm like, yeah, like, this is my first, second, and third choice. If you let me off this wait list, I'm in. So the next day he calls me to let me know that I'm in. I was like really geeked inside, but on the call, and he always jokes because we're cool, he's like, Rima, that was like the most mellow reaction I've ever gotten. Like, I was expecting you to scream or whatever. I'm like, yeah, I did that after we hung up. Like, I was not doing that on the call. But there was also just this sense of assurance and gratitude. I don't know, it was such a beautiful feeling to feel like, wow, I need to trust God more often. Like, if I take anything into this experience, it's that God got me here. It wasn't my GMAT. It wasn't my application. It wasn't my hard work. Like, yes, those things are accessories. I had to show up to earn that, but at the end of the day, like, God got me into this school, and this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'm telling you this story because I also identify as a very rational, type A, pragmatic person, and for people like me, sometimes it's hard to see signs like this and believe them. We make so many excuses as to why we're just overanalyzing or we're looking too deeply into it. And honestly, like, we might be, but my question is just like, why not believe in it? If it makes you feel more trustworthy of the process that you're on, if it makes you feel more connected to God, if it makes you feel like there's something greater than us running this, why not just believe that certain signs that you see on your day-to-day are there to support you and guide you and give you that affirmation. As soon as I chose to see life that way, everything changed. Think about like an example of something that you wanted so bad. Maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's also a school that you really wanted to go to and it didn't work out. Think about a time when you wanted something so bad and it didn't work out. And now think about where you are in relation to that thing. Think about where you'd be if it did work out. And I don't know about you, and I would really love to hear from you actually about this. I'm so grateful that those things didn't work out. Like, there are so many things that I've wanted more than life itself, and I didn't get them. And when I look back, I'm like, oh my God, I dodged a bullet. Oh my God, I'm so happy that relationship crashed and burned. Oh my God, I'm so happy that the only school I got into for undergrad was Michigan, because I had the most amazing experience of my life. And I spent 4 extra years around my family before my dad passed that I would have spent out of state. You know, like you just don't know everything. You don't know everything. I'm really trying to trust the process. That's kind of like my mantra for 2023. I want to remind myself of how many times I've tried to control the process and realize that I'm not actually in control. I want to remind myself of how the process that I had in mind crashed and burned, and how much better my life became ultimately because I trusted the process that I was put on and not the process that I was trying to engineer for myself. I want you to feel that level of security, that at the end of the day, there is something greater that has you exactly where you are right now. Even and especially if where you are right now is uncomfortable, understand that it's purposeful. I was just listening to another YouTube video. It was a TED Talk, and this person said something so profound, that we are in the perfect place and in the perfect time, literally right now. But the perfect place and perfect time might not feel perfect to you. Like, we don't have that 360 view of how things could have played out or what would have happened had we done that other thing. We don't have that perspective. So it's very likely that your situation right now doesn't feel perfect because you don't understand what it could be like. You might think that it could be better, but you don't understand at what cost that could come. You might think that this is worse than you felt last week, but you don't understand what this is doing in your life to prepare you for what's to come. Like, you're not gonna get that. I don't think we're gonna get that until the day we're about to die. I just have so much faith that regardless how things work out, you'll look back, we'll all look back and understand that this was the best possible way things could have played out. I want the best for all of us, and more than anything, I wanna work on my faith. I wanna trust more, and I feel like for me, having more trust in God, having more trust in how things will play out, and not feeling constantly the need to like control everything and hyper analyze everything. I think that that'll just make me feel lighter. As much as I'm somebody who has really benefited from having that trust in other situations, I don't think that I've allowed it to just take over my life yet. I'm really hoping that this is the year where I just step into so much more trust and faith than ever before. I love you so, so, so much. If you like this video on signs and just on trusting that the way things play out is so much better than how they could have played out, you really need to watch my video on toxic men. I think it's like why you keep attracting trash men. I literally talk about a crazy sign story of how I saw this specific animal on the street and how that animal helped me stop talking to a guy like cold turkey. Like, it's a really crazy story. So if you like this, you will love that video. I will drop it right below for you. Love you so much, and see you on the next one, baddie.